Hi, good evening. Ventress Driscoll here. Welcome to this week's edition of the Driskell Debrief. We're so glad to have you. I look forward to this space all week, really, and it feels like. So, first of all, let's just start here. There's only 42 days left between now and Election Day. And I don't know how it's possible for it to seem like there's not enough time. And oh my gosh, there's still so much time. When is election season going to be over? Because we are just ripping and running. And I mean, just from all across Tampa Bay, all across the state, trying to get it done, trying to bring it home, making sure that we secure a win in House District 67 so I can go finish the work that I started in the legislature. And by the way, if you are in House District 67, I would totally appreciate your vote. But then also making sure that we bring back some more folks with us so that we can have more balance in the legislature. I would love to see more balanced conversations in the legislature. Well, we've got so much to cover tonight, so let me go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, let's talk hurricane safety. We know that there is a storm that is forecasted to hit Florida. We know that it's possible that this storm could impact Tampa Bay in regions including all the way up through the Panhandle. So it's my just if I could encourage you in one particular way is to please make sure that you have a hurricane kit. Please make sure that you have a hurricane plan. Please know that sandbags are available for pickup tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Himes Avenue complex, at Al Barnes Park, and at Al Lopez Park. These are all locations in the city of Tampa. So again, Himes Avenue complex, the Al Barnes Park, and the Al Lopez Park. You'll need to bring ID to verify that you live within the city of Tampa limits to receive up to 10 bags. Make sure that you get these bags if you need them and try to get there early. I know sometimes locations can run out of sandbags. So if this is something that you need to secure your safety and your property, please make sure to try to get to one of these locations early. You can find more information at the City of Tampa's website. You can also follow at NWS Tampa Bay. That's NWS Tampa Bay, and at Alert Tampa for real-time information on social media so that you can get all of the updates, the latest information about how the storm is tracking and what resources might be available to you as you prepare before the storm hits. Please know that if you are in Tampa Bay, that Hillsborough County schools are closed tomorrow and Thursday. We want to make sure that we keep our students and our teachers and all the support staff safe. And stay safe out there, and don't hesitate to contact my office if you need anything. We try to stay in touch with the local utilities, my goodness, with the telecommunications company. I've been in touch with the port trying to understand, okay, what sort of, gas do you have available? We want to make sure that people have what they need in the fuel for their automobiles as they try to go about their business. And we want to make sure that we're prepared and braced in case there has to be any recovery. So I'm feeling good about those resources and that smart folks are on the case and watching this storm and trying to make sure that our Tampa Bay community stays as safe and as resilient as possible. But hurricane planning begins and ends with you in a lot of ways. So make sure you have a kit. Make sure that you pay attention as information evolves. If the situation becomes unsafe and you are asked to evacuate, please do that. Property, we can always replace it. We can rebuild it. We cannot replace or rebuild any of you. So please stay safe and pay attention to this storm. Our community, we love our community. Team Pinterest loves our community. And we've been out in the community quite a bit. A few highlights to share with you. Some of you might remember this if you live in the Tampa Bay area, but in 2021, there was a master police officer, Jesse Madsen, who was killed when his vehicle was struck by a wrong way driver. And many believe that Officer Madsen actually swerved his vehicle into the lane of the wrong way driver in order to minimize casualties and loss of life. But in doing so, he made the ultimate sacrifice and actually passed away. He was killed by that wrong way driver, leaving behind a family and children of his own. It was a very sad time in our community. On this week, there was a plaque unveiling at Mission Barbecue here in Tampa. the one that's located in the University of South Florida area, who, by the way, does such a phenomenal job uplifting our law enforcement, our first responders, and our veterans. So that was a lovely event that Team Fentress was able to attend. And of course, our heart continues to go out to Master Police Officer Madsen's family in the wake of that tragedy. It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 3 years ago. Then the University Area Community Development Corporation had a bus tour showcasing all of the great things that it's been up to and many wonderful businesses and just, great things that you can get access to in the university area. I've been honored, blessed really to represent the university area since I was first elected in 2018. And I love what's happening at Uptown. Sarah Combs is a CEO over at UACDC, and she and her team are doing amazing work to make sure that that community gets built out in an inclusive way. It's a very inclusive development that makes sure that it takes the community into heart, which is very beautiful to see. We also attended the CDC of Tampa affordable housing ribbon cutting. Affordable housing is an issue that is top of mind for Floridians from the Panhandle all the way down to the Florida Keys. And we'd like to congratulate the CDC of Tampa for certainly doing its part to help build more affordable housing here in Tampa and make sure families can achieve their dream, their American dream of having an affordable place to live. Our team also took a tour of Tampa Bay Water's treatment plant. If you ever wonder where our water comes from, you should research the Tampa Bay Water Treatment Plant. It's really quite amazing, the effort and the thought and the care and the science that goes into making sure that we have good, clean drinking water here in our community. And then on Sunday, I was honored to attend the BAPS Women's Program. BAPS is a wonderful organization led by folks in our Indian American community. And it was so beautiful to participate with them in their wisdom tradition, their religious tradition, and participate in a program that was uplifting their faith, their commitment to peace, their commitment to the community, and to uplifting one another. So it's been a really busy 7 days, and I didn't even include the travel that happened in that time frame. But, thank you. So many of you who tune in with us every week, you send us notes throughout the week encouraging us, and we appreciate that. And that helps to keep us going too. Now, I want to tell you about our guest. I actually met this young man just a few weeks ago when I participated as a guest on his podcast. And I was so intrigued by him and just the work that he's trying to do in terms of getting information out to the community that I thought, well, hey, could you come onto our live stream? Our guest tonight is Garrett Greco. Garrett is a real estate agent in the Tampa Bay area. He graduated from Florida State in 2015 with a bachelor's in economics and political science and a minor in general business. In college, he obtained his real estate license in college, okay, not after college. And then after college, he became the youngest broker associate at his company. Needless to say, he's a go-getter. He founded Greco Real Estate soon thereafter. Garrett also hosts a popular podcast. It's called the Tampa Bay Developer Podcast. It has thousands of listeners and over 62,000 Instagram followers. He's hosted notable guests on the podcast, including yours truly, and many from the Tampa Bay business community, the government sectors. And it's really interesting. I mean, everybody from Congresswoman Kathy Castor, who is Tampa Bay's Congresswoman, to folks in local government, to business owners. And I just enjoyed my conversation with Garrett so much because I felt like it was coming from a very real place, a very inquisitive and curious place. And I think we need to have more conversations like the ones that Garrett is trying to lead on his podcast that really champion a lot of the good work that's happening in Tampa Bay, but then taking that information and making it accessible to the general population. So without further ado, let me bring to the stage our guest tonight, Mr. Garrett Greco.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Garrett, how you doing?
Doing great. It's great to see you, and thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I mean, it really is a delight to have you. So first things first, why don't we just get into it? Tell us why you started the Tampa Bay Developer Podcast and why it's important to add to the local the conversation about local development.
Well, the show really didn't start off that way. I started the show because I wanted to produce some sort of content for my business. I'm a broker, like the leader said, and so a lot of realtors and brokers on social media, you'll see they do these like short form videos and stuff like that. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to have conversations with people. Um, my family goes a long way back in politics in Tampa. My grandfather was actually the mayor of Tampa in the 1960s and 70s, and then end of the 90s when I was a little kid. So I always had a passion just about local government and the way things work. So I guess what started off as is real estate conversations quickly evolved into conversations about the growth and development of Tampa and the challenges that come with that growth.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about what you've learned so far. Is there anything that has surprised you? What are you learning about our community from your podcast?
I feel like I've learned more in the last year and a half doing this show than I have in my entire 4 years at college. It's like I've been so blessed to talk to so many people, yourself included, that are the ones in charge of some of the things people on the street worry about, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's our roads, transportation, all and even stormwater, hurricanes like we're going to deal with in the next few days, right? I have learned so much. I can't put it into words, but I think what it's done is it's given myself and the viewer a seat at the table to have these conversations and to think about these different things and these challenges. I've taken a very, like you said, kind of inquisitive, curious approach to this. And I think out of that has came an incredible amount of information. And the cool thing about it is I get to have the conversation. That's great for me. But the listener sits right there and listens along with me. So, the listener and myself get all the same information.
I love that. Well, why don't you tell us, are there any particular trends or stories that have like really stood out to you?
Well, I think what has stood out the most is the fact that this state is probably at an inflection point. And it is, we know we're having an incredible amount of growth. We know a ton of people are moving here. I've lived in Florida my whole life. I've seen an incredible amount of change in my lifetime. But I believe that how we decide to move forward will dictate our lives in the next generation. So things like transit, a real transit plan for Tampa Bay. We focus on Tampa Bay, but I know the whole state really is lacking in that regard. Affordable housing is a huge one. So many people with a ton of money have moved into Florida. That, with basic economics, has caused price increases. I just bought my first house with my wife about 3 months ago. We probably paid 50% more than we would have only a few years ago. Some neighborhoods in Tampa have gone up by over 100%. So out of all this exciting growth, I think the biggest challenge is how to manage it, how to handle it, and how to move forward in a way where no one gets left behind, right? If you're coming from a different state and you're moving to Florida, that's fantastic. And we want you to come here, but we don't want to leave behind the people that have lived here their whole life, like me. I don't plan on moving out of Florida. I want to operate my business here and grow my family here. And I think about my baby. What is my baby going to pay when he's my age, 32, for a house here in Tampa? Probably a hell of a lot more than I did, right? But I think the challenge is talking to the right people and finding solutions along the way so that everyone has their fair shot as we move forward.
I love that. And see, we talked about affordable housing actually quite a bit when I got to guest on your podcast. And so let's get into that a little bit more. I was really intrigued by your story as a young father, right? Trying to build a family, like you're building your business, you're building your life. What policies do you think, or like how do you think that current policies have impacted housing affordability? And are there any changes that you see that might be necessary and that might help from your perspective?
Well, I think first of all, I don't many people watching, yourself included, leader, with Hillsborough County cutting that affordable housing fund, I don't know how that's a solution-oriented approach. I don't know the intricacies of that decision. I know it was kind of split, kind of down the middle with the vote on that. But, now probably, certainly actually, is not the time to be cutting funds like that. Those are hard funds to get, and we need more of an affordable housing budget. Now, that's not to say that the government should go in and build everyone a house, right? That's not sustainable. That will not work. What we really need is supply. We need inventory. We need better we need a better control in local government to allow development in an easier way. We're not going to put glue factories next to the, houses. That's not the idea. But the idea is to make the process easier for residents, for developers, and for the government to have a streamlined approach. Here in Tampa, we're actually rewriting the development code to make it easier for people in general, not just the developers. When you're buying a property in a neighborhood in Tampa, you should be able to read the code even if you're not a professional. So that's what we're working on now in Tampa. I think that's a part of the solution. I think another part of the solution is funding. I mean, we need help. We do need government funding for programs to help the least fortunate people in our community. And again, just to reiterate, cutting that affordable housing budget here in Hillsborough County has 1.4 million people in it now. I
Yeah.
was looking up, I forgot what we were talking about on the show, but we were talking about when the highways were built, in the mid-century. I think the highways were put in the 50s or 60s. The population of Hillsborough County was only about 300,000 or 400,000 people. There's a million more people living here now. That's a great deal challenge. I believe and you might know more than me, leader, but the budget for affordable housing, or at least the fund for affordable housing in Hillsborough County, was $10 million. I think they cut it down to like 3 or something like that, 70% cut. They're going to put the funds towards sidewalks and other road works and stuff like that, which is great. But at a time such as this, where Floridians are struggling in so many ways with affordability, insurance included, rising housing costs, flood insurance, all of that sort of stuff, I don't think it's the time for that. I think it's the time for more investment into affordable housing.
Yeah, I'm gonna plus one you on that. So the role of the state, so in its wisdom, years ago, the legislature established the Sadowski Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and there were a certain amount of the taxes from every sale of property in the state that would go into this trust fund that then could be redistributed to local governments to support affordable housing projects, right? And the whole purpose of this is to give incentive to developers because we get it. You're a business owner. You have to make some sort of a profit, but how do we enable you to do well while doing good and build in such a way that is uplifting to the whole community? And like you mentioned, there's so many working families in our community who can't afford a home. I mean, there are teachers who are working full time, leaving it all in the field by giving it to our kids and trying to educate them who cannot afford a home. So the legislature set up this fund. Unfortunately, over the years, the legislature did not fully fund affordable housing. And whenever there would be shortfalls in the budget, oftentimes the legislature would sweep funds and take resources away from affordable housing. And so now we're in the situation where Florida has experienced unprecedented growth. There's so many people who want to move here and enjoy our beautiful natural resources, our beaches, and our sunshine, et cetera, but there's not enough supply. So to me, the local government really could learn from the state's history that this is not a can that you should kick down the road, because what happens is you wind up with the beautiful growth that you wanted in terms of your population and new businesses, but you don't have the resources to support the people who actually want to live in the same county where they work, and it becomes a real problem. So thank you for uplifting that. And yeah, there need to be local government solutions too. You mentioned property insurance as also one of the factors that is contributing to unaffordability in our region, or really in our state. How is property insurance impacting you? How is it impacting you personally as a developer? And just kind of what are you hearing out there in the streets?
Yeah, this is a very, very complicated issue. There's huge businesses involved in insurance. There's a lot of legal issues there. I can only speak from my experience. For me, it has totally put um, you know, a hard piece of metal in the turning gear that is my business, and it's unfortunate because deals that I look at that would have made sense, the needle is tipped the other way because the insurance costs are too high. On my house, We went with the minimum insurance required through the mortgage because it's too expensive for us to fully insure this big family home that I bought. That's a risk I'm willing to take. But I also feel like Floridians probably shouldn't be in the position to have to put their neck out there like that. I don't think I should have had to take that risk, right? It's not affordable for me to have this maximum crazy insurance policy. It's just costs a fortune. So personal reasons for the house, I've had challenges. In business, I've had challenges. Leader, when you were on the show, I mentioned that little building I own there, that insurance policy is $6,600 a year. A few years ago, it was literally a quarter of that. So, I think insurance is a problem. Affordability is a problem. You really have there's multiple things happening at one time. We haven't even really talked about interest rates. We really don't have control of that locally or at the state level. But you do have this perfect storm of affordability. It's not just the money you pay for the house or for the property. What does it cost for insurance? What are the taxes, right? What's the debt on it? All these factors matter. And when we have high insurance costs like we do in Florida, and I believe the most litigious state in the country, right? There's more lawsuits here than anywhere, I think, regarding insurance. I believe that's correct. It's just a recipe for disaster. I believe that in the top 3 issues at the state level, the insurance needs to be handled. It's too expensive. That's all I can say from my experience. I don't know the solution there. It is a complicated one, though.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that very real story. And I will tell you that property insurance rates, just housing affordability generally, but especially property insurance rates, are the number one issue that I hear about from my constituents. People are mad. People think, when they see the legislature focus on things that they don't understand and that seem superfluous, like a book ban or, like stuff that gets into the culture war issues, they don't understand why the state is focusing on things like that as opposed to policies that actually would move the needle in improving their quality of life. And it's just my hope that as we get back to the legislature this fall, knocking on wood and doing all the hard work, hoping that I get to go back and finish what I've started there. It's my sincere hope, too, that the legislature would focus on the property insurance crisis, focus on the condo crisis, right? Like, there was a recent bill that was passed that is having the unintended consequences of requiring folks to pay their portion of these very high assessments, basically to help with upkeep of these condos because the regulation has been so lax for years. And it's kind of like what we just talked about with affordable housing. When you kick a can down the road for too long, then you wind up with a bigger problem that costs more money that you're not prepared for. So yeah, affordability issues right on the nose with that. With litigation, I would say, the legislature actually took away one of the ways, the ability for homeowners to be able to hold their property insurers accountable through litigation, but it has not resulted in lower rates. So oftentimes we hear that litigation is really the problem, but I've been in the legislature for about 6 years, and I've seen at least 3 different times the legislature try to solve the crisis by eliminating the ability to have litigation, and that's just really not the answer. I think one of the solutions that we need to talk about is maybe a catastrophe fund. We have a CAT fund here in Florida. There are property insurance companies who don't feel like they can adequately spread their risk so that they can continue doing business in a reasonable and actuarially sound way in Florida. And they're concerned about that. And if anything, as a state, I think we have to figure out, okay, what sort of solutions can we provide so that the property insurance companies feel better about their risk, and so that we have our homeowners and Floridians' backs in case there's ever a once in 100-year storm or something like that. We need to basically start preparing today for what might happen tomorrow. That's just one solution that I think we could talk about. But like you said, it's really complex.
If I could quickly touch on your point of not kicking things, right? Not kicking the can down the road. Over 20 years ago, this state had the opportunity to work with the federal government for a real transit plan regarding high-speed rail. Our government said no at the time, right?
I gotta go because it makes me mad every time I drive on I-4. I'm out of here. It makes me so mad.
Here's the thing, and look, maybe at the time there were reasons for that That's not the point. The point is things get more expensive over time. We know that economically. If we
Yeah.
don't invest in affordable housing now, if we don't fix the insurance issue now, if we don't fix all of these things we're talking about right now, that's what I meant by inflection point here in our state.
Mhm.
We're only going to have 1 million more people in 2030 move here. And then what are we going to do? Things are going to be 100
Yeah.
times more expensive. I think these issues are critical for Florida to face. Some of the social stuff I believe is a distraction. I don't know why you hear some of that as often as you do here in the state. I'm disappointed by it. And frankly, I believe many people all across the political spectrum are just sick of it. I don't think that's what Florida wants. I think Florida wants solutions, ideas. Let's get creative. Let's recognize that Florida is a unique state. We're a peninsula, we're tropical, we do get storms, we get flooding. It's the reality, it's the world we live in. Let's recognize we're blessed to live in a beautiful place. A ton of people want to move here, but let's not keep kicking the can down the road and pretend like these issues are going to solve themselves.
That's right. I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, and it's so great to hear your perspective as a business owner, right? Like it just those cultural issues, those social war distraction issues don't do anything to help you put more food on the table for your own family, to be able to provide a good, work opportunities for your employees. It does all feel like a distraction and it takes away from the main thing. So friendly reminder, folks, for you to get out and vote. In this moment, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I think you know who I'm voting for, but just a friendly reminder, everybody, to make sure that you are registered to vote and that you show up at the polls on November 5th or get your vote early and go ahead and get your vote by mail ballot. Really, that's what you need to do and make your voices heard and make sure that you do your research and that you're supporting candidates who actually support your values and are going to help do the things to help you take care of your families and help us take care of our community. So Garrett, congratulations. You recently had a new baby, right?
Yep, he's 15 months old. He's amazing.
Wow. All right. So why don't you talk to us about what has the process been like starting a family here in Tampa Bay? What resources have been helpful? Which ones do you wish there were more of for young
Well,
families?
well, it's been incredible. I mean, I think as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a father and have a family of my own. And now that I'm here, it's really exciting and it's amazing. It's so fun. It's been an absolute blessing. But it does come with a certain pressure and certain challenges that I don't know existed maybe when I was growing up or in generations past. Diapers are expensive. Formula is very expensive. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard to make it, and that reality slapped me in the face. I don't want to doom and gloom it, but it's expensive. It's pricey, and it's been a little bit of a challenge because personally, I want to be there for my baby and my wife. I've tried to make them, you hear balance all the time. I've tried to make the most balance as I could. Work from home. I have a home office, which I'm in now. And, I think there's little things you could work on if you're a new parent that make your life easier. Take it easy on yourself. Realize you're raising the next generation. It's not, it's a big feat. It's a large challenge to take on. I would say, help would be nice in the medical field. We have, it was so expensive for my wife and I. Talk about insurance. We actually did the math. We had a little oopsie baby. My wife got pregnant right before our wedding, and we weren't really planning on it. We didn't have insurance at the time. And when we went to get insurance, we did the math on it. And from the time we would have gotten insurance to when the baby was born, it was literally more expensive to get insured than it was try to save money and pay cash for the birth and all the medical bill that comes with all that. And it was kind of a scary thing. I've been very, very, very fortunate in my life to work with members of my family, and I've had help and support. And I would say my life has been easy. I've worked really, really hard, but there's millions of Floridians that have a more challenging life story than I do. And I thought about those people. how the hell are they going to make it when they get stuck with some of these medical bills? So I would say where we might fall short, and this might be a nationwide issue, is boy, it's expensive, and insurance isn't necessarily there to help out, meaning it ain't cheap, right? It's very expensive to go through all this. I would say what is good though is community, the neighborhoods in Tampa. I mean, the amount of other young parents we've met that are going through the same thing, that have the same grievances and have the same exciting things about their life. It's been cool to meet other people that are in the same boat as us. And I think that's one good thing is our community here in Tampa.
Thank you for uplifting that. You're right. Healthcare, it's difficult to find, and then sometimes even harder to afford once you find it. Harder to afford. I mean, people, I've heard stories about the choices that families have had to make sometimes when it comes to, do I pay this insurance or do I literally buy more like supplies and food for my family? It can really come down to that. Particularly, man, a lot of stories in the pandemic. Thank goodness we've been in recovery mode, but it gets real for people. It gets real. The inability to afford just basic expenses and to try to make it in Florida can be very tough. So thank you for your empathy on that and for thinking about people. And I think one of the things that impresses me most about you, Garrett, is that you come from a family with a legendary name in Tampa. Like if you say the last name Greco, somebody's going to know a Greco, but you still work very hard to try to make a way for yourself and to take on that burden and responsibility of being an entrepreneur, of being a young dad. I really commend you for it. I'm curious how maybe having a baby, has it changed your hopes and dreams for the Tampa Bay area at all? Like how has it changed the way that you look at things?
Well, you're right. I mean, my family has done a lot for this community in public service. My father was a judge here in Hillsborough County for 20 years, and then his father, my grandfather, was the mayor. So I grew up with that kind of public service family, and because of that, and I think it just shows kind of who those men were, my father and grandfather. They never got in on any sort of business or I don't have a trust fund. I don't have any money coming to me when they pass. And but I do have a name and I have a legacy and I have a respectable family. And maybe sometimes that's more important, I guess. But when I had my child, when my wife and I had our baby, it really, really put a new focus on myself. It made it very clear to me that business was very important. Making money was very important. Taking care of my family was very important. It really lit a fire under me. It was kind of like put up or shut up type thing. You know, we can't get by anymore with a regular job and have your wife stay at home and take care of 3 kids and you buy the house with a white picket fence. Man, God, I hate to even say it, but it's almost like, and I'm speaking from myself, right? It's almost like that version of America has slipped away and it's echoing. I believe in it. That's why I work hard. I believe in myself. I think I can build a really awesome business here and do very well and hopefully afford to have a stay-at-home mom take care of my kids. But boy, it's challenging. Like we've talked about, life is very, very expensive. And when I had that baby, it was made very clear, no one's coming to save you. I need to get out there and I need to make money and I need to work. And that's what I've been working on. And my real estate business is a part of that. And the podcast is a part of that too. I'm having fun conversations, but now we're going to be opening up the show to sponsorships and we're going to be doing different sort of things like that. And, you just do the best you can, right? You do the best you can.
Well, I would say good for you. I'm glad to hear that the growth of the podcast is going great. And I'll tell you, I will do my part as a partner in state government to continue fighting for families just like yours, Garrett, fighting for families all across the state to make sure that they have what they need to thrive and to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. If folks want to check out your podcast, how do they do that?
So you guys can look me up if you go on any platform, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and search Tampa Bay Developer. Tampa Bay Developer. You can find us. We have a Instagram that I probably post on the most. That's at Tampa Bay Developer, all one word. We release an episode every week. The leader came on a couple weeks ago. We had a great conversation detailing a lot of the stuff we've talked about today. Kathy Castor has been on. The mayor of Tampa has been on. CEO of the Florida Aquarium. You name it. What makes Tampa tick is, I think, the conversation we want to have. What is our growth trajectory? How do we manage it? What does the future look like? That's the type of conversations we have.
And they're excellent conversations. I commend you, friends. Please check it out. Listen and hear what Garrett has to offer and what he has to say. And thank you just for, again, providing that perspective as a young Floridian, as a young dad, a young entrepreneur who's just trying to make it. Thanks for being so real about what it's like, because I think for a lot of folks, a lot of my colleagues up in Tallahassee, I can't speak for Congress, right? I don't serve there, but for a lot of folks in Tallahassee, when we stand up, because I'm in the minority party, which is the party of opposition. We're the party who kind of stands up for the little guy and says, hey, wait, let's slow down. You don't understand the consequences of what you're about to decide. I think sometimes when we say things like, but you are going to impact and potentially destroy the economics of thousands of Florida's families. You got to think about this. They don't always listen, or maybe they think that we're given to hyperbole. But I love being able to talk with folks like you, talk with my constituents, and really hear how folks are living. And when the rubber hits the road, we need a government that is helpful to us, not overbearing. Just give us what we need to have a good start, and then please get out of the way. That's kind of my philosophy, and that's what I want to see us be as a state, is a government who actually cares about its people, cares about its citizens, creates that pathway for a good life, and then kind of get out of people's way so they can go get it. So thank you, Garrett, for being a go-getter. We appreciate you. Thank you for spending time with us today, and please stay safe this week during the hurricane.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So there you have it, folks. I told you you would enjoy the conversation with our guest tonight, and you can see why I really enjoyed my time with him on his podcast. He's so easy to talk to. He's very real, and he's going to tell you what he's going through and just be authentic about it. And I really appreciated that. So, oh my gosh, it's already 8:37. Where does the time go? Let me go ahead and wind this down. I'm going to get out of here. I'm actually right now at Casa Kamala, which is the headquarters for the Hispanic Caucus, the Hispanic Democratic Caucus of Hillsborough County. Is headquartered here, and they have created a very welcoming space, welcoming environment. The LGBTQ caucus actually held its open house tonight. So if you can hear any music, that's what's happening in the background. I'm going to go and join the party and check on everybody and make sure that they're doing well. But thank you for tuning in. Here's your friendly reminder to make sure that you are registered to vote. You must register to vote by October 7th. So make sure that you are registered to vote, and that your friends and family are registered to vote, and that they request their vote by mail ballots. And of course, everyone, please stay safe with this hurricane. And if you need anything, do not hesitate to reach out. We're here for you. Take care.